He left a bank envelope on my doorstep. No words, just guilt written in his eyes. I didn't cry. I documented, by morning, that envelope turned into a case number, and half the neighborhood wanted answers. The real reckoning had just begun. The evening air in Baton Rouge was thick enough to hold its breath. The cicadas had started their chorus early, and the ceiling fan over my kitchen table hummed like a tired preacher. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and looked at Byron's picture on the mantel. He was smiling in that same blue tie I buried him in, calm as if nothing in this world could shake him. Sometimes I speak to him out loud, just a, "Hey, baby," like he's still on his way home. I set a lemon peel to curl on the counter beside my glass of water and took my blood pressure pill. The doctor said, "Keep it under 130, and I've learned to listen, just not always to people." My phone buzzed, a text from my daughter. "Syra, we're stopping by." No heart emoji. No love you. Just a period. I glanced out the window and saw Deacon's truck idling too long at the curb. 10 minutes of engine noise isn't cooling down an engine. It's cooling off a temper. I straightened the checkbook on the counter, made sure the folder of bank statements stayed locked in the drawer. Byron and I worked 40 years for that nest egg. Some folks mistake quiet women for easy targets. The door opened before I could reach it. Deacon came in first, his cologne arriving before his apology. "She's hiding money from us." "Azalea!" he barked, waving his phone like a warrant. Syra stood behind him, eyes red from anger or shame. I couldn't tell. He shoved the phone toward me, showing a balance screen. "How am I supposed to fix our house when you're hoarding it all? You don't budget with wishbones, Deacon," I said softly. "You budget with backbones." My voice stayed even, but my pulse ticked faster. He slammed his palm on the counter, rattling the glass. "Give me your password," he shouted. "You're old-fashioned and stingy. Old-fashioned, like integrity." I watched the corner of his jacket lift, saw the angle of his stance, the way the small camera light on my bookshelf blinked red. I noticed everything. I always do. Then it happened too fast for reason to catch it. Syra's hand jerked, her voice cracked, and she threw the water glass at the wall behind me. It shattered like thunder. A piece nicked my cheek. Warmth spread down toward my chin. I didn't scream. I pressed the towel against it, folded once. "You don't throw glass in my house. Not ever." My voice wasn't loud, but it cut the air sharper than the shards. Deacon's face twisted. "Give me that password," he yelled again, but his eyes flickered toward the blood, afraid, not sorry. I dabbed the wound and said, "You just made a record you can't erase." I set the towel down, a small red bloom on white cotton. The room felt electric. I slowed my breathing like my doctor taught me. Count 4 in, 4 out. "Whose name," I asked quietly, "is on your renovation contract?" His mouth opened, but the words never came. "That's what I thought," I said. Before the next insult could land, I turned toward the door. "Before you go on," I told them, "you might want to turn around." They did. The door swung wider. Verity Calhoun stepped inside, steady hand holding her phone up, red recording light bright as a confession. "Louisiana's one-party consent," she said flatly. "You're in her home." The silence that followed was heavier than guilt. Deacon's bravado collapsed. Syra's shoulders sagged. I didn't smile. I just breathed. Verity snapped pictures, the glass, my cheek, the towel. "You're done here," she said, "and you're not touching her laptop." Deacon mumbled something about church. "You'll see me in records," I replied. After they left, the fan stopped spinning. The house exhaled. Verity helped clean the counter while I rinsed the towel, watching the water run pink. Then clear. She noticed Deacon's phone screen. That account view looked fake, she murmured. I pulled a postal notice from the fruit bowl. Address verification. It read. I hadn't opened it. Verity frowned. You might have more than one thief in this story. I locked the door, checked each window. Folks think seniors don't read fine print, I said, turning off the lights. Some of us wrote it. The quiet returned, but my blood didn't slow. I looked at Byron's photo again. We're okay, I whispered. Then Verity's phone buzzed. A new email popped up, labeled Authorization, Azalea, PDF. We exchanged a look. I didn't flinch. I don't shout, baby, I said softly. I document. When we opened the file, my forged signature stared back at me. The forged PDF glowed cold blue against the dark of my office. My name was there, spelled right, but the middle initial sat like a stranger between them. I never use it. The R had a fancy curl, something I've never written in my life. I zoomed in, squinting through my bifocals. Whoever did this knew enough to trace, not enough to imitate. The lines were too smooth, the ink weight too even. The footer told its own story. South Acadian Thruway branch code. Timestamped 2 Tuesdays ago, the day I was sitting in Dr. Samuels's office getting my blood pressure checked. I pulled that appointment card from the drawer. At our age, I murmured, appointments and receipts. That's your alibi. Verity stood behind me, steady as a deacon. We'll need the hash file, she said, and I handed her a thumb drive. She saved it, labeled it like a cop, then pointed to the printer. Make a copy and sign your initials. I printed one sheet, wrote AR in blue ink. My hand didn't shake. Claiming my name again felt like pulling weeds, slow, necessary, satisfying. At the kitchen table, I opened a new notebook and wrote across the first page, incident log. I listed the date, time, names, and what was said in my house. If they yell, I said to Verity, you write. She smiled. And if they lie, you date it. I brewed fresh tea, not out of thirst, but rhythm, anger. I've learned, cools better in a cup than in the throat. We decided not to call Deacon or Syra. Tonight was for facts, not fireworks. The night deepened. I pulled the mail from the fruit bowl. That postcard again. The fine print matched the same branch footer. Verity spotted the mistake before I did. My street name spelled Marigny instead of Maringi. Crooks always miss the details, I said. Postmen don't. I checked my spam folder. There it was, a fake alert. The printer whirred as I stacked the last 3 months of statements into a manila folder. I wrote on it, Green Magnolia. That was my private code for this war. We listed our plan, fraud desk at 9, police report by 10, church at 11. Sunday was coming whether I liked it or not. Morning crept through the blinds. I told Verity, a son-in-law ain't a bank account. A daughter ain't a pin. She nodded, already knowing. I sealed their spare keys in a zip bag, labeled them for certified mail. Then I changed my alarm code, sticking a note above it. Do not open for loud talking. Byron would have laughed at that. I didn't. You may call my attorney, I whispered, but you may not see my checkbook. Sunday at St. Martin's felt wrong from the first step. The usher nodded without meeting my eyes. My pew had a paper marked reserve. Nobody had ever reserved anything in this church before. I sat anyway, Bible open but heart locked. Folks who'd hugged me for 20 years suddenly found reasons to adjust hymnals. I heard a soft, bless her heart, and that told me everything. Reverend March glanced my way, then back at his notes. You can feel a room turn on you, I thought, like a storm front without rain. I didn't stay for communion. Dignity leaves when you're ready, not when dismissed. I folded the bulletin and walked out before the final hymn. Outside, the parking lot shimmered in the heat. Gossip travels faster than grace, I thought. But distance isn't revenge. It's peace. I drove home in silence, past the magnolia trees, past the sign where Byron and I once took photos for the church directory. I parked under the same tree and sat a while. I called the bank's fraud desk right at 9, gave every fact like a witness sworn in, forged PDF, doctor's alibi, wrong middle initial. I got a case number and wrote it bold on the folder's front. Verity filed the police report while I reset my email passwords. Catfish Gumbo 1979 church fans. Easy to remember. Hard to guess. Later. I stood at the mirror, touched the bandage on my cheek. I love you, I whispered to the reflection that looked like Syra. But you can't spend me. The ache stayed, but it didn't rule me. I'd raised a woman, not a bill. When the doorbell rang that afternoon, it was Mrs. Dupree with a bag of Satsumas. No note, just kindness. I sliced one open. The scent filled the house like sunlight. I wrapped 2 for Verity and said, "Vitamin C beats courtroom stress." She laughed. That night, I placed green magnolia under Byron's picture. His eyes still looked proud. I whispered, "God, guard my house. I'll guard my records." The email came just before midnight. Authorization. Witness statement. My pulse quickened. I clicked. The glass door in the photo reflected Deacon's plaid shirt, and behind him, a bank name tag I knew too well. I woke before the alarm. The air felt heavy, like Baton Rouge had been holding its breath overnight. My cheek throbbed where the glass had cut it. But it wasn't pain that kept me awake. It was the memory of that forged signature. I poured coffee into my old chipped mug, took a pen, and wrote "Today" at the top of a yellow legal pad. The list underneath wasn't dramatic. Check lock codes, call the fraud desk, document everything. Dignity first, noise never. I checked the bandage, straightened the folder stack on the table. Green magnolia, home keys, church notes. Byron's cross lay on top. "At my age," I murmured. "You don't chase fires, you shut doors." I locked the drawer with my checkbook and texted Verity, "Come early. We'll do this by the book." She arrived 10 minutes later with a slim scanner and that look of quiet purpose. "Short sentences," she reminded me. "No volunteering." We practiced. "Please spell that for my notes." "I'd like a printed copy." "No, I won't be signing anything today." Her calm had weight. It steadied the room. She copied my statements, stamped copy on the jacket, and tucked the originals into my folder. "Chain of custody starts here," she said. I nodded. We laid out everything in order. Emails, postcards, that cursed PDF, even my doctor's receipt. Verity scanned each page while I labeled them in blue ink. The towel photo, the cheek close-up, the church bulletin with the word "reserve." She said, "Paper doesn't lie." "People do," I whispered back. "Then let's keep the paper honest." We made 3 copies: home safe, carry folder, and cloud upload. I texted Syra one line: "No pop-ins, call first. I'm safe and taking care of business." I didn't wait for a reply. I sealed her and Deacon's house keys in a zip bag, labeled them for certified mail, and placed them by the door. "I love you," I said softly to the empty kitchen, "but I won't be spoken to like that." The words sounded strange at first, then right. Verity confirmed our case number with the fraud desk. "Meeting tomorrow," she read aloud. "Conference room, break room wing." The same note from that mysterious email. She looked at me sharply. They want privacy, I replied. Let them set the table. We'll bring the silver. We spent the next hour setting up passwords, freezing my credit, and transferring sensitive mail to my P.O. box. Each confirmation email was a small victory. I watered the magnolia tree afterward, dirt cool beneath my hands. Normal chores keep panic from renting a room, I told Verity. She smiled. You sound like a woman writing her own manual. Maybe I was. Later. We sat on the porch, the morning heat already thickened, cicadas working overtime. You ready for ugly? She asked. I've been ready since last night, I said. Justice at my age doesn't shout. It documents. She nodded, tapping the folder. This time, you've got a witness with ink. The phone buzzed again, a new calendar invite from the bank. Meeting moved up to 9:15, tomorrow. CC'd was a name neither of us recognized. Verity's eyes narrowed. Someone inside wants this seen. I felt that old calm return, cool and sharp. Then we'll see them, I said, sliding green magnolia into my tote. The porch fan creaked overhead. I took one last sip of coffee, cold but strong. The email thread blinked again. Confirmed. The new name replied. I looked at Verity. Tomorrow, I said, we find out who's really signing things in my name. I wore navy low heels, my tote on the left shoulder, the green magnolia folder zipped inside. Verity followed 2 steps behind, calm and composed, her phone in hand. The South Acadian Thruway branch looked too quiet for a Monday morning. I noted the exits, the small dome of a security camera, and the seat we'd chosen yesterday, the corner by the wall art, with the door in my line of sight. Good morning, I told the receptionist. We have a 9:15 with management. I'll be recording for accuracy. She frowned. Policy says no recordings. I smiled slightly. Then we'll wait for the manager to confirm that in writing. The silence that followed gave me time to click my recorder on. Verity stood behind me, the faint click loud enough to matter. I wrote down the minute, the badge names, and the time we were seated. The break room wing was small, smelling of burnt coffee and lavender cleaner. 3 people entered. Marla Quist, the branch manager, Henrietta Lowe, compliance officer, and a young woman with that same name tag from last night's email, Rain Arsenault. Marla smiled too wide. Can I offer coffee? No, thank you, I said. Hands free, mind clear. I placed copies of my documents on the table, never originals. This is our fraud desk case number, I said, steady and clear. I asked them to spell their names and titles. Verity repeated each for the record. Henrietta obliged. Rain stumbled, eyes flicking down. I'm not signing anything today, I said. I'm here for dates, names, and process. Marla's tone softened. Mrs. Rutherford, we're taking this seriously. Then let's have the written policy, I replied, and the ID of whoever opened my file. I set out my 3 anchors, the doctor's receipt from my cardiology appointment, the address verification card with the wrong spelling, and the forged PDF footer showing their branch code. What IP submitted this authorization? I asked. Which workstation? Whose badge pinged the door? Henrietta hesitated, then said, The badge log exists. Preserve it, Verity said firmly. Litigation hold. I slid forward the forged signature printout. Uniform pressure, I said. Traced, not written, Henrietta nodded. We'll open an internal audit today and freeze any linked recipient accounts until you finish, I added. Marla said she'd escalate. That word always means someone's nervous. Verity laid down the still from the selfie reflection, the glass door showing Rain's tag pattern. I followed with the authorization form bearing a faint witness signature, same last name. Lots of Arsenaults in Baton Rouge, Rain murmured. Then you'll welcome a handwriting comparison, I said softly. Henrietta straightened. We'll start a forensic review and place involved employees on leave. Marla's smile thinned. Mrs. Rutherford, we'd appreciate if you keep this quiet to avoid panic. I looked her straight on. I don't do panic. I do records. When we left, the sunlight felt too sharp. My phone buzzed in the lobby, a new PDF titled Cease and Desist. The email came from a free domain. If they send it, we save it, I said. Verity uploaded it to our cloud, noting the metadata. I replied simply, all further communication through counsel. This message is preserved. I logged it. Retaliation attempt. Documented. I took one deep breath. Not fear, just sorting thoughts. You heading to the station? Verity asked. Yes, she said. You? Church lunch. Observation duty. At St. Martin Chapel's Fellowship Hall, the air smelled of jambalaya and judgment. Conversations dimmed when I walked in. Reverend Calvin March prayed for families burdened by stubborn elders. No names, but every glance said mine. A deacon slid a chair facing the kitchen instead of the table. Message received. You can't shame a woman who keeps receipts, I thought. I texted Verity. Happening, she replied. Recording. I sent a 10-second clip of the sermon line. I thanked the volunteer, stacked my plate, and left before dessert. Dignity exits quietly. Back home. I logged every detail. The words. Time. Temperature of the room. Verity texted. Audit opened. Badge access frozen. I labeled a new tab in my folder, Pressure Campaigns. At our age, I told the empty kitchen, you win slow, 1 page at a time. I slipped Byron's cross into the folder, locked the drawer, and poured tea. The magnolia tapped softly against the window like applause. Then my phone vibrated again. A voicemail transcript appeared. They're editing yesterday's camera timestamps. Check maintenance login. The number was blocked. I caught a fragment. Arc. Before static swallowed it, I forwarded it to Verity. Someone scared enough to help. A new file blinked onto my screen. Maintenance access XLSX. I opened it. The first row read, Arsenault. The morning light crept across my dining table, touching the corner of the green magnolia folder like a quiet reminder. I woke to an email from the fraud desk. Official confirmation. The internal audit was open. Badge logs under litigation hold. I printed it, signed my initials, and slid it beneath the tab marked Audit Trail. My ritual followed. Test Wi-Fi, power, water autopay. Everything worked until the internet flickered once. Too brief to fail, long enough to warn. I took pictures of the meter readings. The blocked voicemail from yesterday replayed in my mind. Maintenance login. I circled the phrase in red. Verity texted, clinic at 10, phone on. I replied, groceries, post office, porch cam. My mantra, steady as breath. At 67, I don't chase storm. I build roofs. By 9, a white utility truck pulled to the curb. No work order number on the door. A young tech hopped out, holding a tablet. Ma'am, we got a disconnect request, non-payment. I showed him my receipt from yesterday. He blinked, uncertain. It's on the tablet, he mumbled. Then read it aloud. I said, Verity, on speaker, whispered, ask who placed the service call. He scrolled, swallowed, customer name. C. Rutherford. That's my daughter, I replied evenly. She doesn't live here. Leave the line intact. He hesitated, then backed off. Camera from my porch clicking twice. If you cut it, I added, your company's legal team can explain negligence. His truck pulled away slower than it came. I logged his license plate, the time, and printed the door cam photo for pressure campaigns. Walking to the mailbox, I caught 2 neighbors mid-sentence. Silence landed when they saw me. Minutes later, my friend Aaliyah texted a screenshot from the HOA group chat. Elder confusion, unsafe driving, financial strain. Same words Reverend March used last Sunday. I typed back, preserve thread. Don't argue. Then I drafted a note to HOA. No consent for medical or financial gossip. Further comments to council. Ellison, my next-door neighbor, stepped outside. Need me to confirm your fine? He asked. I'd appreciate that, I said. He spoke loudly enough for the porch cameras to catch. Mrs. Rutherford walks this block every morning, clear-headed as ever. I smiled. Paper beats whispers, but witnesses don't hurt. By noon, Verity called. Her voice was tight. HR got an anonymous complaint accusing me of violating patient privacy. Retaliation, I said flatly. Attach the hush letter and meeting log. We rehearsed her defense. Short, factual, firm. No patient data. Elder abuse prevention. All within consent law. She sent the documentation and copied compliance. They'll think twice, I told her. We don't shout, we timestamp. I added a new section to my folder, Verity Shield, later. I unlocked the maintenance file that had haunted me all night. Each line of data had fingerprints. One edit occurred 5 minutes after the break room meeting. Another from a Maint SVC guest, login, untraceable, but not invisible. I printed the sheet, circled the exact minute Marla said, "Let's keep this quiet." Time doesn't lie, I whispered. People do. I wrote a preservation request to compliance, citing the altered entries. Verity sent it from her personal email, no clinic servers involved. Copies went straight to my POO, Boxcloud, alias, at 4:17 p.m. A parish deputy knocked. "Welfare check," he said, polite but rehearsed. "Reports of confusion and possible self-harm." I stepped onto the porch, palms open. "Officer, I'm well. You may record." His camera light blinked red. I showed my ID, my logs, my fraud case number, even the deputy call card from last week. "You can view from the threshold. No search consent," I said calmly. He scanned the folders, nodded. "You're squared away, ma'am." "Name of the caller?" I asked. "Anonymous," he said, hesitating. "File harassment if it repeats." When he left, I wrote down every word. By sunset, my desk held a stack. Utility attempt, HOA rumor, HR complaint, deputy card, maintenance log. I clipped them together, labeled the tab Retaliation Timeline. I typed a summary, time, name, action, and emailed it to the audit desk. Retaliation observed, post-investigation, preservation requested. My voice felt strong reading it aloud. We don't chase them, we count them. The kettle whistled. Outside. The magnolia's leaves flicked in rhythm with the porch camera light. My phone buzzed. A double alert. Court hearing advanced to Friday 9 Core. HOA grievance at 9:30. 10 minutes later. Compliance replied, "Cease recordings pending review." Verity texted, "They're trying to split you." I looked at the blinking porch light and circled both times on my calendar. Underneath, I wrote in ink that wouldn't fade, "Choose the room that moves the money." I arrived at the courthouse at 8:45. The navy suit pressed, the same one I wore when Byron testified before his board years ago. The clerk at the window confirmed the calendar change. Judge Coralie Fitch, courtroom 3B, 9 sharp. I texted Verity. I chose the courtroom. HOA can wait. Her reply came fast. Record of records. I smiled, touching the edge of the green magnolia binder on the bench beside me. Each tab gleamed. Badge logs, maintenance XLS, camera map, hush letter, retaliation timeline. Ada Malik Renner met me in the hallway. his tie crooked like a man chasing 3 cases at once. "You got the insider voicemail?" I asked. He nodded, flipping through my spreadsheet prints. "We're going for a preservation motion." 3 asks, I said. Logs, leave, freeze. My breath came calm. "We don't raise voices. We raise exhibits." The bailiff called the case. I stepped forward. Pro se, steady voice. Bank counsel stood to my left. Corporate logo tie shining like apology. Henrietta from compliance sat behind him. Marla in the second row, stone-faced. Rain was absent. I stated the scope clear. "This is not about damages, Your Honor. It's about preservation." I handed Exhibit A, the audit email, and Exhibit B, the badge log acknowledgement. Bank counsel muttered, "Internal process is adequate." I answered, "Adequate doesn't edit timestamps after meetings." Judge Fitch leaned forward. "Specifics?" I quoted the exact cell time from Maintenance Access, XLSX, the same one Verity had flagged. "We request order for surveillance exports, lobby, teller, break room, with checksum validation." Ada Renner added, "Potential elder financial exploitation. The state has an interest." My fingers rested on the binder spine. My pulse stayed low. I presented the camera map next. "Your Honor, the maintenance calendar placard appears beside this copier." The photo showed both the placard and the wall clock reading 9:38 a.m., while the tampered log showed 9:11. Time on walls isn't partisan. It just is. Henrietta adjusted her glasses. Badge reader shows Rains Station inconsistent with assigned schedule. Marla leaned in, trying soft logic. Might be a daylight saving correction. I turned the page to the IT policy, patch installed 2 weeks prior. Silence filled the room. Judge Fitch frowned. "Who holds maintenance admin credentials?" Counsel hesitated, then said it. Arsenault. The sound landed like a hammer wrapped in silk. I laid down the selfie still from the witness statement, the glass reflection catching Rain's name tag in reverse. I placed beside it the authorization form with the Arsenault signature. "Request handwriting comparison and keystroke audit," I said. Ada Renner stood. "We ask temporary suspension of named data access pending review." Judge Fitch nodded. "Granted." The gavel tapped once. Clean. Final. "Preserve and export all surveillance. Freeze maintenance admin access." The clerk stamped my packet. Ink still wet. Marla's jaw tensed. Henrietta looked at the floor. I didn't smile. I stapled in the corridor. Marla caught my sleeve. "Did you have to name people?" she asked. I turned to her. "I named actions. People attach themselves." Henrietta approached. Quieter. "Watch the teller vault cam," she said, slipping me a corporate investigations card. I let her glimpse the binder tab marked Vault 2 Angles. Her eyes widened. She realized I was already ahead. Ada Renner walked by. "State Crimes Unit will mirror the order," he said. I texted Verity. "Order granted. Vault cam next." At the clerk's counter, I bought certified copies, watched each page receive the red stamp. I scanned them to my cloud, mailed one to my P.O. box and one to my own address. The clerk smiled. "Our clocks sync to atomic time, ma'am." "That's why I chose this room," I said. The courthouse clock struck 10:10 as I added the final sheet. Preservation achieved, vault pending. I wrote beneath it, "Time is my witness." My phone vibrated before I reached the steps. First, a text from the HOA president. Immediate grievance session. Missed appearance noted. Second, a public thread from Daria Bloom. Elder weaponizing court to mask dementia. I exhaled slowly. Third buzz. Deputy Larkin's email, another welfare check request, same anonymous script, and then the fourth, a OneDrive link from an unknown sender. I tapped. The video showed Rain at a workstation labeled Maint Admin. The truth finally had a face. I forwarded it to Ada Renner. Checksum or it didn't happen. I wrote, outside. The magnolia's shadow curved across the courthouse steps like a clock face. The sun struck my binder's brass clip, blinding for a second but beautiful. I circled Tuesday, 9 on my paper calendar and whispered to myself, bring the vault. I arrived at the courthouse before 8:30, Verity beside me. Both of us with coffee we'd forgotten to sip. Our checklist was silent choreography, exhibits labeled, timestamps cross-referenced, custody receipts signed in duplicate. Ada Malik Renner joined us, confirming the surveillance exports had arrived intact, checksum hashes matched, no missing frames. When Judge Coralie Fitch took the bench, the courtroom lights dimmed and the monitor came alive. The footage showed Rain Arsenault at the Maint Admin workstation, the same login that had haunted my nights. Then the freeze frame, Rain handing a slim folder to a manicured hand with Marla Quist's unmistakable watch glinting under the fluorescent hum. Henrietta Lowe from compliance whispered, policy violations likely. She announced immediate suspension for Rain, administrative leave for Marla. I kept my eyes on the wall clock in the footage. 9:38. Numbers that couldn't lie. The order expanded. Image every device tied to the maintenance account. Preserve raw badge data. Freeze all linked profiles. No cheers, just paper moving truth forward. In the hallway, Henrietta caught up with me. You forced daylight without burning the building down. I asked the clock to talk, I said. Marla walked past, flanked by HR. Her badge clinked against the lanyard like a ticking apology. Renner leaned close. Expect restitution talks once forensics confirm the trail. I'll request elder exploitation enhancement. My phone buzzed. Deputy Larkin, welfare call IP traced to HOA server. Pattern evidence, folded into one binder. I texted Verity. Next stop, the clubhouse. By noon, the Willow Trace clubhouse buzzed like a hornet's nest. President Lenora Pike tried to gavel order, accusing me of disruption and cognitive decline. I stayed seated, rolled out the TV cart, plugged in my USB. The lobby camera clip filled the screen, Rain's login, Marla's watch, Judge Fitch's seal in the corner. Daria Bloom started shouting until the room itself silenced her. Lenora sputtered. Private banking issues. I cut her off softly. The welfare checks came from this office's IP. Verity's metadata printout glowed under the projector light. A veteran neighbor stood up. You called cops on her while she was being robbed? The air turned heavy. A motion from the back called for Lenora's suspension pending audit. Seconded. Passed. Daria stormed out, phone streaming live while comments scrolled, about time. I gathered my folder and said one line that held the room. If you think silence is weakness, you haven't met paper. Back home, the stillness felt heavier than noise. I brewed mint tea, hands trembling just enough to clink the spoon. The phone rang. Cressida. Mama, I'm sorry. Her voice cracked. When Harlan yelled for passwords, I froze. I kept my tone even. You can't unchoose what's done, but you can choose what's next. I laid my terms. 2 Al-Anon meetings, then talked to Verity about exploitation cycles. She wept softly. We ended with, we'll try. It wasn't forgiveness, just structure. Henrietta texted, corporate moving funds to escrow. I replied with routing details for the victim compensation account. By late afternoon, corporate counsel called proposing settlement, restitution fees, and an apology without admission. I countered, full return, fees, and a letter naming elder exploitation harm. Verity suggested we turn the moment outward, a resource sheet for seniors. Ada Renner reminded, "Don't sign away cooperation." I said, "I'm after peace, not immunity." At 6, I met 3 neighbors at Eloise's diner. Between sips of gumbo, they shared scams that had emptied their savings, phony bail calls, forged signatures, silent withdrawals. I handed Verity's one-pager, escalation ladder, hotline, how to timestamp with a flip phone. "Wish I'd known," one man said. "Now you do." I told him, "Teach someone tomorrow." We drafted a neighborhood elder guard, tea once a month. Phone tree, 1 tech buddy per house. Small defense, real impact. Sunset came red and slow. I was washing my cup when 3 soft knocks touched the screen door. Harlan stood there, hat in hand, eyes rimmed with guilt. "5 minutes to explain," he said. I looked past him at the unmarked sedan creeping by. "Explanations belong in sworn statements." He nodded, slid a bank envelope across the sill, and left without another word. I used gloves, sealed it in a zip bag, and texted Renner, "Pick up? It's warm. By 8 a.m. Verity and I were at the DA's office, coffee in one hand, the sealed bank envelope in the other. The evidence tech wore gloves, logged the barcode, took photographs, and handed me the receipt with calm precision. Ada Malik Renner flipped open the contents. Withdrawal slips, handwriting scrawled with Harlan Cade's initials, dates aligning with the flagged transfers. "This ties it to your account timeline," he said. I nodded, giving my statement slow and clear. He brought it unprompted. I didn't engage. I preserved it. Renner outlined the probable charges: attempted exploitation, conspiracy, maybe more once the teller footage matched. "You want to include a victim impact note?" he asked. "Yes," I said, "but make it about prevention, not punishment." He smiled faintly. "That'll land well." We sealed our agreement. No contact from Harlan. If he showed up again, I'd call Larkin before saying a word. By 10, I was at my credit union. Henrietta joined by video. Her expression softened from weeks of battle. Corporate counsel presented the restitution packet, full principal, examiner fees, and a signed acknowledgement of elder exploitation harm. Verity ran the math like a surgeon. "Every penny matches," she confirmed. I asked for all funds routed into a new compensation subaccount, clean ledger, untouched by daily spending. I added one more clause, a no-contact covenant barring Marla, Rain, or Harlan from approaching, calling, or posting about me. Breach meant damages. Counsel agreed. Signatures met Witness Inc. The transfer pinged my phone, numbers rising back to where they belonged. I exhaled, a sound I hadn't realized I'd been holding for months. Then I authorized a small donation, seed money for the neighborhood elder guard. "Transparency," I said to Verity, sliding her the co-signer form. "At home?" The phone rang. Cressida's name blinked across the screen. "Speaker, please," I told Verity. My daughter's voice was shaky. "Mama, I finished the 2 meetings." "Good," I said gently. "Next is a session with the financial counselor and a short letter, your own words about control and choice. Then coffee. Public place." She hesitated. "I don't want to lose you." "You won't," I said softly. "But love doesn't mean access. It means responsibility." The silence stretched. Then she whispered, "Yes, ma'am." No drama, no tears, just boundaries built with both hands. By noon, I walked into the clubhouse carrying only a 3-page guide. The new interim board waited. No cameras, no applause. I handed Lenora Pike's temporary replacement the Elder Guard Handbook, escalation ladder, hotline numbers, time-stamped tutorials. If you want change, I told them, write it in policy. A retired teacher volunteered to lead tech sessions. Eloise's Diner offered the back room for monthly tea and learn gatherings. The board voted to require 2 signatures and a courtesy call before any future welfare checks. We'll name it the Rutherford Rule, someone joked. I shook my head. No names, just lessons. I left before the applause could start. Evening came amber and slow. On my porch, Verity placed a small fireproof safe on the table. For the paper trail, she said. Together we filed the settlement, orders, and receipts. I locked it with my mother's birth date. My phone buzzed, Renner again. The note from Harlan admits he acted under Marla's pressure, he said. You closed the loop. I poured tea, watching the sun drop behind the magnolia. No, I replied. The law did. I drafted one last letter for court. I didn't ask for punishment. I asked for daylight. Then I transferred the first stipend from the restitution account to cover transport for elders needing rides to their banks. At 8:01 p.m., my phone vibrated again. A state task force number. Mrs. Rutherford, the voice said. Would you consider training banks on elder-proofing accounts? I looked toward the darkened street, the quiet house finally breathing easy. I will, I said, but after Sunday coffee with my daughter. The next morning, a plain envelope slid under my door. No return address. Just one word scrawled across the front. Vault. My phone lit up again, the same state number calling twice. But when I answered, the line was silent, except for a faint click, like a recorder starting.